Well, I think that's a great point around the language that gets used. And I have a similar concern about the way that the word privilege gets used. We used to have a term in this country called success.
Yeah.
People were successful or not. And, success had a connotation of being earned, whereas privilege has a connotation of being unearned. Well, now sometimes privilege is earned success and sometimes it's unearned. And, but when you start using the word privilege to describe all success, it implies that there's something, unjust or unearned about it and it needs to be reallocated. So, that to me is another one of these political words is we shouldn't be confusing success with privilege.
Yeah.
They're two very different things.
I have an example of this. Oprah Winfrey is successful. Prince Henry has privilege.
It's privilege.
It's privilege. I shoehorned the Meghan Markle story finally here.
I do want to talk about the Meghan Markle story actually at some point before the end of this podcast. But before
Let's
we do
it
that,
right now.
Joe Lonsdale actually also had a tweet, a pretty unapologetic set of tweets around, the miscasting of this concept of privilege. And I thought it was really on point. I really agreed with what he was saying. And it's effectively what you're saying, David. It's like people right now, I find, are just so, well, not people. The people that take the time to wallow in Twitter, mostly, at least as I interact with them, are just so bitter. And I think that there is no magnanimous happiness for other people's success anymore. I think like we live in a culture now where everybody feels it is so zero sum when it's not, in fact, zero sum. And people just begrudge other people's success, especially, by the way, when it's earned. And the reason is because there's an entire generation of people of all different ages and, but this last 5 or 10 years who tapped themselves out. Now, some were legitimately prevented from success, but there's a lot of people that bought into this narrative of, wow, it's a whole conspiracy that's set up against me, so I'm not even going to try. And they are often the loudest and the most embittered.
Absolutely.
And the reason is because, everybody wakes up in their 40s and 50s and starts to rationalize their choices in their lives. And what they really feel deep down inside is, oh my God, I just let an entire decade go by of blaming other people. And I think there's a surprisingly large amount of that.
This ideology of victimization doesn't teach people the right things because you start to think that, if you're wallowing in your oppression, then you don't have agency over your own life. You're blaming other people for not being successful, not getting ahead, when what you should be doing is focusing on working and improving your own life and getting ahead.
Or also just redefining what happiness means. Happiness doesn't mean what that other person has and then saying, because I don't have that, I have nothing. Happiness is really like introspectively figuring out like what really makes you complete. And I mean, not to get too syrupy about it, but it's like, that's what we've also lost the script on. So when you put all of these things together, there's just a bunch of people that sit on the sidelines. They either are too scared to enter the arena or they don't want to enter the arena. They don't want the failure that comes from it because they've grown up in a culture where, they had the kindergarten soccer ball handed to them, the gold star in everything they've ever done.
Participation trophy.
And now what we really need are people in the arena more than ever, folks trying and failing, and it's okay. And there's just not enough of them. What instead is there's just a lot of people who just want to bitch and complain.
And I think this is the backlash to the Meghan Markle interview is this miscasting that this is an extremely privileged person, or, Harry and Meghan both are very privileged. But I think what they're trying to do by making all these sort of accusations of racism against their own family is they're trying to ground that privilege in victim status. And this is the thing about privilege is a social concept. It's got nothing to do with success, which is either earned or unearned. And so the way that people get to maintain their privilege is they ground it in some sort of victimization. It creates these very perverse incentives.
My reaction to the Meghan Markle Prince Harry interview was the following. I had a lot of sympathy for what she was saying. But on the other side, I also thought you must have known what you were getting into on the way in. And it was beyond now. And look, I'll say this as a Canadian and a Sri Lankan. So the Queen and the monarchy is an I can't describe to you guys because you're not part of the Commonwealth, but it is just a definitional part of who we are as we grow up. And I don't know what the equivalent American construct is. I guess there isn't one really. And so, the monarchy is an incredibly important thing, but we all know that it's this kind of like anachronistic thing that
bullshit.
Just kind of, I don't look for us. It's not bullshit. Like, I mean, like if you said to me, despite all my bullshit and raging against the machine and society and blah, 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 and stature and whatever, if I could be invited to meet the queen, I would be there in 8 nanoseconds.
Well,
okay?
I think the equivalent is the presidency. We actually feel that way about the presidency. Like going to visit the president is a big deal.
I've
met presidents.
The presidency is not an endowed kind of circumstance.
There's something about the queen. My point is though, we all know that it's important. It's a great symbol of the Commonwealth. I'm very proud of all of that. But we also know it's anachronistic and it doesn't make much sense. And so what do you think you were marrying into? And I think, my perspective was I felt bad for her. I can't believe, it got to the place where like people wouldn't get help for her when she was sick and, and then they were questioning Harry's or the kids, Archie's skin color. I mean, this is insanity. Like these people are stuck in the 1800s, but then you realize they are actually stuck in the 1800s because they're not allowed to have a normal life. They're not allowed to actually interact. So, are they at fault or is the system that creates these sort of like voyeuristic, exotic animals in a zoo that we call the king, the queen, these princes, is the system at fault? I don't know. I was kind of like 50-50 on the interview, but my perspective was the monarchy is in a really tough spot over the next 30 or 40 years because again, so now let me tell you where my belief is. I'm kind of a little bummed by the whole thing. The monarchy doesn't mean what it used to mean for me.
David, what was more enthralling to you this week? Tucker versus Taylor or the Queen versus Oprah and Prince Henry? And
I didn't spend a tremendous amount of time on either one. I mean, look, if I were Harry, I would probably do the same thing, which is to basically leave. Look, the first thing I did in my career was quit the firm, right? Who wants to work for a firm? It's very tracked. So I don't blame him leaving, going to California. That's what we all did, right? Yeah. I mean, that's a very entrepreneurial American thing to do. What I had a problem with was the way that they're attacking their own family because they're being paid $7 million to do this interview.
No, hold on.
They were not paid.
There was the first question Oprah asked, and they were very clear they were not getting paid. Now, they did sign $100 million.
Who made the $7 million then?
No, Oprah did. Harpo did.
Oh, well, she's a genius.
Yeah, she's a genius. No, let's just be clear.
Again?
Oprah is our queen. Okay, that's true. The queen of America. Right. Oprah is the queen.
Oprah figured out a way to get paid.
It's even worse if they did the interview for free and didn't even get a piece of the back end. So all they did was attack and besmirch their family for none of that. And look, I guess my point is, so why would they do it if it's not even about the money? I mean, it's about this idea of defining their privilege, grounding it in victim status. And I think there's something very fake and phony about that. And I think that's why people had this reaction to it where, frankly, I don't think they're on the side of the royal family because it is outdated, but I think there was a lot of skepticism towards what Harry and Meghan
I had a little
saying.
bit of a problem with the live from our $15 million Montecito mansion.
No, Jason,
our victimhood.
Stop.
I mean,
that was
who paid for that house?
That was their friend's house.
They have a $15 million house. I know, but they also have a $15 million house next to Oprah. Well, who paid for that?
They put $5 million down. No, it's public. They put $5 million down and they took out a mortgage. It's someone listed this whole thing.
No, it's an honest question. Do the taxpayers of the UK fund the princes?
That's the whole point. They went and did a deal with Netflix and Spotify, and now they have a salary and they're making money like everybody else. So I mean, I don't have an issue with any of that.
No, I don't have an issue with that. I thought the taxpayers funded the lifestyle. They do fund the lifestyle of the other princes, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing.
Can we talk about something important?
Yeah. Okay. So a Beeple NFT sold for $69 million.
I mean, this week was crazy. All the dumbest shit happened this week. Taylor Lorenz
Welcome to this week in dumb shit.
Slaughtered on. This week in dumb shit.
So I miss Tucker versus Taylor, but actually the real the person who took on Taylor that did a brilliant job was Glenn Greenwald.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you guys read his post, but
that was brutal.
Brilliant.
Savage.
Brilliant. And basically what he said is that, look, you've got these class of reporters out there who their job is to go out and they're like little hall monitors, trying to bust people for whatever they might say in a clubhouse room, not just public figures, but private people too. They're in the business of destroying lives and reputations. That's basically their business model. But then the second anyone has any criticism for them, they claim it's harassment, which is just absolute nonsense. And they want to be immune from criticism.
The only person that was inoculated against social justice wokeness to write that article is Glenn Greenwald, because he is, he's gay, he's got brown kids, he lives in Brazil, with, it's like you can't, well, it's like irresistible force meeting the immovable object.
He's not completely immune because he was attacked, and people said pretty nasty things about him. But yeah, he definitely has some.
I think Greenwald is an unbelievable writer who calls it like he sees it. I don't agree with everything he says all the time. But he's right to call this stuff out. There was another bunch of social justice nonsense this week as well. This poor guy had to give out this crazy apology tweet because he said he liked to exercise. What happened? Wait, what is that story?
Okay, this is the greatest. Okay, there's a kid.
Because I've been telling you, Jason, I want you to exercise because I love you.
I lost 20 pounds. Look at me. I'm looking
for
pretty good.
I want both of you guys to exercise.
Tell me about
it. By the way, public service announcement: COVID vaccine CA is the bot. So at COVID vaccine CA.
COVID vaccine CA.
It just tweets every 5 minutes 100 different places you can go pretend to be a DoorDash driver and get a shot. Sorry, I mean if you were a DoorDash driver,
get vaccinated. Check a box.
Check a box. Let's go.
Vaccinated.
Let's roll, people.
Don't let Newsom take away your health.
Yeah. Don't let Newsom put you in a noose.
Don't focus on equity.
Yeah. Meanwhile, he's at
Jason,
French
tell us about this.
Okay.
Tell us about this tweet thing. What happened?
There's a kid named Dom. He's an entrepreneur. He's building a company.
It's a good company. It's funded by Stripe. It's raised hundreds of millions of dollars. Good for this guy.
Yeah, but he likes to he's kind of trying to engage on Twitter, and he basically said, I feel so much better and I'm performing at such a higher level since I got my diet and my exercise right. I mean, people who are not getting their physical right are really underperforming at work. It's such an opportunity or whatever. And then, the large and in charge, fat is beautiful, contingent basically tried to cancel him.
Sorry, but did he say that you have to be skinny?
No, he just said you will if you're fat, you're underperforming, basically. He didn't use the word fat, but he said, if you're not in shape, you're underperforming at work, which I said, is there science behind this? And yeah, sure. People showed me 100 studies that show if you lose weight, you have better concentration and focus. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but he did the cardinal sin as here, I'll read you the tweet. An important lesson I learned well into my career. If you are not physically fit and healthy, then you are underperforming at work. Pretty basic, probably not very controversial, but he did what David Sacks always advises, and the advice he gave to Trump, which is never apologize. And he apologized. Dom apologized and took the tweet down, which then the mob really went after him. And he said, I screwed up and I'm extremely sorry. I have recently spent a lot of energy focused on my fitness, eating, and sleep in my enthusiasm for my new fitness regime. I posted a tweet that was meant to celebrate my new healthy lifestyle, but that's not how it came across. And I see now how incredibly insensitive my original tweet was.
With all the problems that we have that need fixing, I mean, this is what people were focused on this past week?
No, but here's the kicker of the apology. This is something I really need to improve on. And I will.
Well, no, I'm not making fun of him. I just think it's sad that it came to that. Ridiculous. What the hell is going on?
No, but don't apologize. If you believe being healthier is, good, then you should say it and, let the chips fall with it. People can debate it. But can't we have a debate about that? Because this is in the middle of a COVID crisis when the top two vectors are age and obesity. Period. If you're fat, you die from COVID. That's how it works.
And you got both those problems.
You're old and fat.
You guys didn't say stupid. All right, I'm doing good today. All right, today in All In Nonsense, apparently